Vicious Karen body shames my wife at the beach. My mother has always been a bit of a Karen when it comes to other people's body issues, but she took it way too far when she turned her venom on my wife. To be fair, it was her husband who started it. My mom stayed out of it at first, but when she got herself involved, things only escalated from there. Now I'm not sure we'll ever speak to each other again. My relationship with my mom and stepdad is tense. My mom and I used to be close, but her and my wife do not get along at all, and I just can't seem to get along with the guy she married. We still try having a relationship from time to time, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. Recently we met up at the beach. My wife has some body issues and some insecurities, and they've gotten worse since she had our son a year ago. My mom is very insensitive to other people's insecurities, as she thinks it's stupid. My wife is the one who wanted to go to the beach, but I still knew she was going to feel uncomfortable wearing a bathing suit in front of my family. By the time we got there, my mom and her husband were already there and unpacked. He was in the water, and I saw him choke back a laugh when my wife took her clothes off. He turned my mom around to show her. To her credit, she did quickly turn back, but he was clearly laughing at my wife. I could see from her face that she had picked up on it. I confirmed with another relative and decided to confront him. I went over to where they were and asked what the heck his problem was. He told me to lighten up and that he was trying to control it, but he thought it was funny and her bottom looked like a diaper. He said if a woman can't wear a bikini fine, just don't. He also said her bathing suit, a modest high-waisted bikini, was ridiculous. I told him to shut his effing mouth. She had a baby a year ago and she looks smoking hot. He laughed and said he had 2 kids with his first wife and she never looked like that. My mom said I was being unfair to him, as it looked ridiculous since it was white. I said he needed to leave. He said it was a public beach and he wasn't leaving. I told my mom to get him out, but she only offered to move their stuff somewhere else and said I was ridiculous and that it was the ugliest bathing suit she'd ever seen. I finally yelled at her that if she didn't find a way to make him leave, I would never forgive her, that she would never be close to my son, and she can watch him grow up through Facebook updates. My mom called me an idiot and swam away, but they didn't leave. When we got home, she messaged me that I'm pathetic, that I emotionally blackmailed and guilt-tripped her, and I'm an egomaniac for even thinking she cares that much. She blocked me and will not respond to anything. My whole family is agreeing and saying I was borderline abusive, and that she can't control her husband. She can, though. She literally just pouts and he gives in. Before I get too deep into this, it's pretty obvious that this original poster's mom and stepdad are in the wrong here. You'd think a mother would be able to show some sympathy for a woman who just had a baby last year. Better yet, how about being nice because she's your son's wife? Even better, how about just respecting the fact that she's a human being minding her own business? If the stepdad is like this, what is it about him that attracted the mother to him in the first place? Even if he's great in bed, I just can't imagine wanting to marry someone who has nothing better to do than mock other people. With all of that said, OP's a jerk here too. Not for standing up for his wife, obviously, but for the way he did it. If this woman has body insecurities, going to the beach was a huge step for her. Huge enough that it's weird OP never suggested they go another time when they wouldn't be joined by a man they already know is disrespectful. But the goal in facing these insecurities is often to prove to yourself that people aren't staring at you or judging you as often as you think. Her greatest hope was probably that she could enjoy a day at the beach without too many eyes on her. And thanks to OP's yelling, anyone in the immediate area would have had their attention drawn directly to her. Standing up for your wife is one thing, but if you really respect her body issues, drawing unwanted attention to her is the worst thing you could do. It almost feels like he's wanted to cause a scene with this man for a while, and this just gave him the opportunity. And if literally the whole family is saying he was abusive, I have to wonder if there isn't a piece of the story we aren't getting. But what do you think? Should OP have handled this differently? Is he one of the jerks here for not accounting for his wife's needs? Or is he fully justified? Let us know in the comments how you see the situation. Rude boyfriend thinks calling someone slurs is a prank. I was over at my boyfriend's apartment this weekend, and I was cooking dinner because he was studying for exams. I made pasta and a chunky sauce with meatballs and veggies. I told him dinner was ready, and he goes, "What's for dinner tonight, B-word?" with like a lot of emphasis on the last word. I was fed up. I'd had a pretty rough day with work, and I have some awfully bad associations with that word being used by other people in my life who were pretty abusive. So I was so irritated that I dropped the pot of pasta sauce I'd been carrying right on the ground and was like, well, nothing's for dinner tonight now, and I better not hear you using that word again. It's for the girls. He was freaking out about how sauce had landed on his rug, and he even said, "You're seriously acting like a B word right now. I don't know what else to call it." I just walked out and got takeout for myself and went to my friend's house. She thought it was funny, but my boyfriend was furious. He kept texting and calling and sending me voice memos, trying to explain that saying, "What's for dinner tonight" B word was a TikTok trend, and that he was just quoting something as a joke to put on TikTok. I thought that was the cruddiest excuse ever. It doesn't matter if he saw it as a joke, or stole that joke from somewhere else. It was still disrespectful. But it didn't change the fact he thought that stuff was funny, to demean me when I was trying to do him a favor. Like, heck, I came over when he was studying to make a home-cooked dinner, and he decides it's time for jokes. So I put my phone on Don't Disturb for the night, and split a bottle of wine with my friend and her roommate. The next morning, he was sending me angry texts, demanding I clean his rug because he was too busy with exams to do it. I was shocked he left it overnight. That's disgusting. I texted him back saying, "Yeah, so that's the B-word tax, honey. Leave me alone until you're ready to handle your own cooking and cleaning because this B-word isn't anymore. Also, it's vile that you left that soaking in all night." He called me and told me that he was okay with doing his own household work, but I did throw a full pot of sauce at the ground, so that's on me to clean up. I told him, "Yeah, no, I'm not comfortable doing chores for you if you see me like your B-word." He told me he didn't, and it was just a trend. Then I got ticked off that he was playing that TikTok trend BS excuse again, and I told him, "Well, I'm starting a trend called saucing, where, as a little joke, people throw pasta sauce around. You can't be mad because it's just a little trend, a little jokey joke, just a little prank, bro." He got really ticked off and hung up on me, and now I'm seriously wondering if this dumb effing TikTok joke is going to be the end of things between us. Am I the jerk for how I reacted? Edit to address a comment I've gotten a lot and I don't have time to reply to every time. But did you tell him not to call you a B-word? How would he know otherwise? Honestly, if someone has gotten to the age of 30 and not realized that women as a whole do not like having demeaning slurs used against them, they're beyond my help. This isn't something that needs to be told. I shouldn't have to go through life like, "Hey man, just in case you were thinking I might like demeaning slurs against my gender used on me, I actually don't." And if you were about to comment something like that, let me tell you in no uncertain terms, women do not like being called B-words by men. Do not call women B-words. If you needed to be told that is unkind, consider yourself officially told. Now you have no excuse to not understand. I actually don't know why the boyfriend in this story is so upset. It kind of sounds like OP's reaction would have made for a pretty good TikTok. What exactly is the point of this trend if not to get a reaction? I'm actively refusing to look up these videos, but I can't imagine the girlfriend is expected to smile sweetly and answer the question as if there's nothing wrong with what the guy just said. I'm going to go ahead and say the biggest jerk here is TikTok. The guy's a jerk too, of course, but if he hadn't doubled down and tried to get her to clean up the mess he just let sit there overnight, I might have thought he was just stupid. This isn't the first time I've seen a story on Reddit where someone treated a loved one poorly in the name of some toxic TikTok trend. In fact, most prank videos in general revolve around behaviors that nobody in their right mind would expect to get away with if they didn't have the prank excuse to fall back on. Whatever happened to harmless pranks like whoopee cushions or buttering the stairs? Is it really necessary to go out of your way to offend someone in the hopes you'll get TikTok likes from a few strangers? You know what? I've talked myself into it. He's definitely a jerk. End of discussion. On an unrelated note, I can't wait to see TikTok blow up with saucing videos. Ruining someone's carpet feels totally like something they'd be into. If you made it this far in the video, consider liking and subscribing for more videos coming. Entitled Sister went after my son, so I ruined her wedding. I'm a wedding planner, so when my sister announced her engagement, it was assumed that I would plan it. I really enjoy my line of work and getting the best deal for my clients, but this entire situation has made me question if I actually do. My ex and I dated for a couple of years and had a child before we split, at which point he immediately began dating my sister. He and my sister have since dated for a year before they got engaged this April, and this is where their wedding plans were pushed onto me. I've paid tens of thousands in deposits, despite the massive discounts provided by my suppliers due to the huge guest lists, shocking demands, and even more overbearing in-laws. I don't want to share too much due to privacy, but I will say it includes a life-sized commissioned sculpture of the bride and groom. The issue is that while I placed the deposits in May, I hadn't heard anything by late August. I asked my sister about it, and she continued to say that she would pay me back once she had a successful wedding this October. But I was beginning to worry. My ex had issues with handling his money and almost ruined my credit, for example, and I guess I was worried this would put me in a similar situation and also tarnish my reputation amongst clients and suppliers. I didn't believe her, so I pushed for a better explanation, and she abruptly uninvited me from the wedding for my appalling behavior. She then began calling me nasty names and claiming to our family that I was refusing to let my ex have visitation. She also started leaving negative review after review on my business and then claimed that she would no longer allow my son to see his father. I've kept up a positive relationship with my ex, so my son would be able to keep a relationship with him, but my sister has ruined it. I've received messages from our siblings since, showing receipts where she's continued to bash my son and be cruel to him behind my back, and I don't understand why. It breaks my heart that she's being horrible to him just to hurt me, but I know by admitting it that she's only succeeding. In response to her actions, I called every vendor that I contacted for her wedding and managed to get a refund for most of them, and I'm so grateful for that. I immediately told my sister this, that if she wants to keep these clients, that she will need to have these payments ready. I then sent her every single invoice I've received for her wedding. She was, of course, furious and called me, screaming down the phone at me. But I didn't care anymore, and I just laughed at her and hung up. I know it's cruel to suddenly impose this on her, but I'm sick of her antics. Please keep in mind that I've also had to handle several other clients while planning this huge effing wedding for free, take care of my son, and also manage payments for my household during an energy crisis. I'm sick of my sister, but she's telling everyone in my family, including my previous in-laws, that I'm a jerk and that I ruined her wedding. I think you know you're not the jerk. I don't know much about wedding planning, but I can't imagine you'll find a lot of wedding planners out there who would take on expenses like a life-sized sculpture without the bride and groom paying on time. And at the point she started bringing the kid into it, you owed her nothing. She's obviously the jerk here. My real question is where the future husband fits into all this. First of all, it's weird to marry your ex's sister. I don't know exactly how many fish there are in the sea, but there are enough for you to find two fish that weren't born in the same womb. It's also worth noting, since I didn't include it in the above story, that OP and her sister are twins. So at worst, they're identical, and at best, he's still marrying a woman who looks a lot like his ex. That feels a little gross. But more importantly, why is he not standing up to his fiancée when she's trying to keep him from his kid? I feel like we need a lot more info on how he feels about all this, and why the sister seems to be in total control here. Either way, the fact that he's still planning on marrying a woman who would stand between him and his son says enough for me to think he's probably one of the jerks in this story. Hateful family thinks I owe them a free place to stay. I do not. I own a small condo in Orlando. I bought it while working for the Mouse, and my friend Ben lived there with me. Ben's a cook and is rarely home. He has a large room that is accessible from outside and an attached bathroom that locks to the rest of the house. Well, I got a different job, got engaged to my partner, and moved a few hours away. We kept the condo as a place to stay when we visit the parks, and we agreed with Ben that he could continue living there as long as he paid all the utilities and maintained the place. Our friends use it too. They pay a bit for utilities, are told not to bother Ben, and clean before they leave. Between everyone who uses it, we've gotten stuff donated, so it's now a fully stocked vacation home. My immediate family and I have a bad history, but we mended. They've used the condo 3 to 4 times a year. On Monday, Ben got woken up at 2 a.m. by hammering on the main door. My aunt and uncle, their kids, and their grandkids were all there waiting to be let in. I haven't spoken to these people in years after they decided I was the devil's spawn for being gay. They demanded that the caretaker give them the keys. Ben called me, and I told him to give them my number and then shut and lock the door and not let them in. My aunt was insistent that my condo was actually owned by my family, that it was the family vacation home, and it was against the law to not let them in. I told her, no, it was mine. I own it, and I let friends and family use it, but I choose who stays there. There was a lot of back and forth and some petty name-calling. She said they were here for a week and asked where they were supposed to go. I said I don't care. Meanwhile, my partner reported that Ben texted them saying my uncle was attempting to kick in the door. I said, tell him to call the police. She hung up on me, and Ben said they left. In the morning, I got a phone call from my mom trying to convince me to let them stay. We had an argument during which she admitted that she didn't tell people that I owned the property because she didn't want the rest of our family to know they were in contact with me again. I told her if that's how she wants our relationship to be, then she's no longer welcome. I checked in with Ben, and he's okay. Today, my aunt sent several texts asking to stay at the house because they hadn't accounted for having to pay for a hotel, and they had planned to just buy groceries and use the kitchen. I told her no. She said they were about to be out on the street with their luggage. She called me cruel and heartless, and said that I was ruining Disney for the kids. That made me hesitate, probably because I worked for the mouse. I know that particular family line has very little money, yet I find it hard to believe someone would plan a whole vacation without accounting extra funds for it. But the kids are really young. I'm so furious over the homophobia that it feels like a point of pride to deny them access. So am I the jerk? I'm glad that OP finds this as unbelievable as I do. It's generally a bad idea to plan for any vacation without factoring in some unknown costs. But Disney is especially expensive. Even if you don't plan on buying souvenirs, which is blasphemy, you're talking about walking around and waiting in lines all day. You're going to get hungry. You can't expect to eat all your meals in the kitchen when you get back to the condo. And the food you're going to find at Disney isn't exactly cheap. Obviously, that's not the main reason OP isn't the jerk here. I wouldn't let someone into my home who had basically voiced hatred for me in the past. Even some of the biggest doormats I've met would still put their foot down on this one. I understand OP's hesitation, since the kids likely have nothing to do with his grudge against the aunt and uncle, and it sounds like the aunt and uncle only showed up to the condo because they got bad intel from OP's mother. That can't be held against the kids either. But at the end of the day, that's a dispute the aunt and uncle will have to hammer out with OP's mother, not OP himself. It's not great that the kids will suffer for it, but sometimes that's the price you pay for throwing family under the bus. What do you think? Should OP have let them stay for the kids' sake, or would that be more kindness than this family deserves? Let us know in the comments what you do in this situation. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.